You're listening to Out Loud and Live with JC Alvarez. Get set to meet the world's next mightiest superhero in the animated film Maxxie LaWow Drag Super-Shero, featuring the voice talents of some of the most popular queens to emerge from the Emmy award-winning reality competition series RuPaul's Drag Race. Anthony Hand is the creator behind the spectacle that has quickly become a hit on the film festival circuit.
Igor, showtime.
Who are you?
The name's Maxxie LaWow.
Maxxie LaWow!
Anthony Hand, thank you so much for spending some time with me. You are the creator, producer, director of the crowd-pleasing, award-winning festival darling, Maxxie LaWow Drag Super-Shero.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm thrilled to be here.
This is wonderful. And like every good Shiro and hero, everyone has a great and fulfilling and very exciting origin story. Let's begin before we get into Maxxie LaWow's. Let's talk about yours. Tell me a little bit about your origin story.
Oh my goodness. Well, she grew up on a little farm in Michigan.
Oh,
Oh my God, I was definitely that nerdy little kid in a small farming village of 600 people in Michigan, if you can imagine that. And, my best friend was whatever random fantasy novel I was carting around that day. I can remember sitting in the tree in the front yard reading from my fantasy novel when other kids were out playing and stuff. So, yeah, things were a little tough, I'll have to admit, from that perspective. I had the big city heart, but grew up in
mm,
a very small farming town. So, you
right.
know,
Well,
and
did you find your? I mean, even growing up in a small town and finding friends in your fantasy books, and I can relate to that because
mm,
that certainly is very similar to my background. Did you find friends quickly? Did you make friends very quickly within your circle with similar interests?
I would say that, as a kid who was bullied, in a
Mm,
small town, and I think that there are certainly many folks who can relate to this kind of an experience. I would say that as an adult, I have a fresh perspective on that, and I've actually kept in touch with many of my classmates, and I would say that I probably came from so much of a place of trauma as a child
mm,
that I didn't realize that I had so many friends and allies among my classmates. And it took many years to understand that with this sort of adult perspective and all the healing I've kind of gone through since then. And I did have some, close friends and everything, but as the gay kid who was kind of smart and geeky and into nerdy stuff, comic books included, it was very hard to find a tribe in a class in a town that small.
mm.
So.
So eventually, must have that just finding that solace in your comic books and in your fantasy books, it led to a career in animation, which came what was the chicken or the egg? Did you fall into animation, or as a filmmaker? Tell me a little bit about that progress into where we are now.
Oh, you know what? I'd say neither chicken nor egg, but probably something scrambled for sure. Oh
That's
my goodness.
okay.
Well, I have taken a long journey to this path of making my first film, and
Mm.
I'm so delighted that the film is actually pretty good and
Yeah.
with incredible music, incredible voiceover performances, and just really a fun, sparkly, you know, glittery pop tornado of a story. So that's
Right.
awesome. But my day job is actually in tech, and so my nerdy little self found myself in Japan for a while teaching English, and then early in the days of the web found my way into tech somehow, kind of accidentally. And now years later, I am in the position where I kind of came up with this crazy story as a love letter to drag.
Mm.
I came kind of like full circle where I didn't appreciate drag in my queer youth when I came out in college. I'll be perfectly honest. And it took probably a combination of becoming a fan of RuPaul's Drag Race from
Right.
season one And then going to Provincetown on Cape Cod. When I lived in Boston, I would go
Right.
to P-Town regularly, and that's where I was really exposed to, a different type of drag that was more theatrical and less about female illusion. And I'd say that that was probably when I really fell in love with drag. And
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
years later, becoming friends with Darcy Drollinger, for example, who's the owner of the nightclub and cabaret in San Francisco called
Mm,
San Francisco Oasis, when I'm like, you know what? Let me take this crazy story I've been stewing on for a while because where are all the gay superheroes? Where are all the queer
mm,
superheroes in general? Why isn't there anything about our stories being told in
right.
this sort of comics dominant land that we're living in right now? We
Yeah.
need
Yeah.
to tell our stories too.
Yeah, and to that story, I mean that's so fascinating because Maxine LaWow drag Super-Shero. Drag is about these two identities, a secret identity and one that
Yeah,
lets you kind of like be your authentic self. Maxie LaWow, you know, has a secret identity. Simon, who is a barista, who we can
shy
all
young barista.
yeah, shy young barista. And it's like everyone can relate to that side. And then there's this transformation that really touches him and makes a whole new level of excitement in his life. Um, let's talk about the film and just you discussed how there was that drag connection and just paying homage to drag and how it's changed. Maxie LaWow drag Super-Shero. Hit it.
You will do something you never thought you could do. Destiny awaits, and you cannot escape it!
Very funny, Valentina. You can just say take out the trash next time.
Honey, in this house, we're all your friends. What's your name?
I'm Simon.
I'm Mama Moo Moo. This is my place.
Well, just a little bit of background about the story for your listeners first. So, Max LaWell tells the story of Simon, a shy young barista who finds a magic wig that turns him into the titular drag Super-Shero, Maxie LaWow. And we have a drag villain as well. Her name is Dinah Bollicle. And Dinah's discovered that drag queen tears have magical anti-aging properties.
Of course they
So
do.
of course they do. So she's been kidnapping her drag competition and forcing them to watch the saddest movie ever made, which we call Jersey Dunes 2, to drain them of their magical tears and launch a new cosmetics line. And now she's after Maxie.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's I saw the film and I really, really, as a fan of the genre, animation, and especially superheroes, I just found all the, how well suited all these superhero tropes fit into this story. They just all slotted in so well. I mean, it's like, Simon, his secret identity origin story, how he gains his superpowers for his alternate identity. But there's all these other characters in there that really speak to the genre. He's got his person in the chair, his sort of like, person who knows his secret identity and is along for the ride, and all these other people.
Mhm.
Getting that story together and what were some of the inspirations for the animation? Because it almost you can see the influences
Mhm.
from mainstream and very popular genres. What were some of the inspirations for the animation style of the film?
Well, I mean, I started with the foundation of a queer-led story. And
Hmm.
so almost every character is, sort of in the LGBTQ family in some
Right.
way, as well as our cast. We have a deliciously queer cast. And the one, a straight ally actor, by the way, is Lorraine Newman, whose
Mm.
kids are in the LGBTQ family. So, which is amazing. And she's an incredible ally too. And I think the story of chasing eternal youth is as the sort of like villain's story is
Mm,
incredibly relatable to kind of this gay culture in general, which chases youth so much. And of course, it's relatable to the wider culture as well, and with women in general, as beauty products are sold to women, I should say. And so I think that it's just a really relatable, fun, silly story. And then, on Simon's journey, he's tw it's the eve of his 21st birthday, and he kind of lacks direction in his sort of West Hollywood-like small town and doesn't know where to go, what to do. There's this young man who comes into the cafe every day, orders the same thing, and he's too shy to even speak to him with any
right.
sort of, coherence. And so when these queens start disappearing, who's going to step up and challenge or find out what's going on, investigate it, and defend their community?
Yeah.
And so by finding this magical wig, who finds in Simon that the strength is there already and just needs to be tapped into and unleashed. I think this is a story that we can absolutely all relate to. Plus, it's common kind of superhero stories
Yeah,
in
yeah,
general,
yeah,
but wrapped in
yeah.
very colorful pink bunting and
No,
sparkles.
it's watching it. You mentioned the cast. There's a whole host of really fantastic voices from RuPaul's Drag Race that
Mm.
they must have been chomping at the bit, like when you were showing them what the characters look like, and then having them
Mhm.
draft their voices onto it. Um, was it easy recruiting some? I would imagine it was like, yeah, I'm in.
I have to give all of the cast props because here is this indie little production, and you never know what you're going to get with an indie film
Mm,
production for sure. But when we explain the story to them, they're all like, that sounds queer, I'm in, which is incredible.
yeah.
And even Lorraine Newman, she was like, this sounds like fun, let's do it, and and then the RuPaul's Drag Race I'm sorry, cast members. So we have Jinx Monsoon,
Mhm.
currently enjoying an incredible run on
Yeah.
Broadway. Again, another one, I should say,
Yeah.
which is incredible. And then Ben de la Creme, Monet Exchange, Heidi in Closet, and Rosé. And so when we reached out to each of them, because honestly, because the film is, we have an associate producer named Darcy Drollinger, the drag queen who owns SF Oasis. I mean, they all know Oasis because it's such an iconic landmark
Mm,
in San Francisco, and many of them have performed there in the past or performing there soon, and or will go there to party after their show someplace else.
right.
So that door was certainly open to us through Darcy's support of this project. But the film was also written by, so it was my story. I wrote the treatment, and then uh, drag queen slash actor director Michael Phillis took that treatment and converted it into wrote the filmable script. So, having his participation also, and a local San Francisco choreographer, yeah, it's all very much a San Francisco kind of production and has that
Mm.
kind of an indie feel, which is just really fun too.
Yeah, it's very authentic, and really honestly, it's no doubt it's been such a huge hit on the festival circuit, and you've been just showered with such accolades for this feature film, which
Well, thank
really
you.
it's just congratulations, because it's in a time right now where it's sort of like our voices are being diminished. You really need, especially the younger members of our community really thrive
Yes.
when they see this kind of material where it's just universal. I mean, this is just a universal story, and it's everyone can relate to it, and just the
Mhm.
fact that it's just getting so much attention must be so exciting to you, and also a surprise that it's doing so well.
Well, we could always do better when everyone has a Maxi, or Diabolical doll, at Christmas time. You
Yes.
could unwrap it and, oh my God, it's
Yeah.
Diabolical. I mean, that's what
With interchangeable features.
with like interchangeable wigs. Yeah,
Yes.
perfect, perfect.
I love that.
But when we were young, gay people were like were usually the tragic victims, and it's almost like
Mm,
maybe it was the intentional kind of 1950s fallout where
mm.
any gay character, any queer character in general, they were the victim. And basically, punishment for being queer was typically death or some tragedy. And then coming of age in the 80s, like myself, we just didn't see LGBTQ plus
Hmm.
representation in any positive, meaningful
Sure.
way on TV. In fact, I remember like some suspect on TV, Charlie's Angels or something, who was very Nelly,
Mm.
and an unkind comment from a family member saying, "Oh, Tony, that looks kind of reminds you of you sometimes." And like,
Mm.
a lot of,
Oh,
a little
wow.
point of shame that I'd come to
Mm.
do some healing around.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's having positive representation like this, to your point,
Yeah.
is now, especially in this environment, is very important. And one thing that's nice about Maxi is that it's really suitable for drag fans of any age or persuasion, which is great because so many LGBTQ plus films are really adult oriented,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
this is accessible to, even high schoolers, like high school kids and their
Absolutely.
queer friends could watch it together,
Yeah.
or they could watch it with their family, which I think is just a huge thing, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is so crucial and so important right now to have that sort of visibility. And
Hmm.
we're in the middle of Comic-Con season.
Oh
San
yeah.
Diego Comic-Con is happening next week. New York Comic-Con is coming up. Do you have any intention of bringing uh Maxine LaWow to the Comic-Con audience? Because I mean, I think it'd be a hit for them to sort of like see, there's a whole LGBTQ community within the Comic-Con circuit.
Sure. I'm not quite sure how to crack into the San Diego Comic-Con, honestly. But what's cool is that Karen and Bill Drastel, who are the animation production leads, they have a little company called Chubby Beagle Productions.
Mm.
And so they were our animation production partners, and they brought together an incredible team of US-based animation artists to make this film on the animation side. And so they're on a panel at Comic-Con, and I forget the
Right
name of it
on.
right now, but God bless them, that's fantastic. And to your point, I would definitely like to get a booth together, uh,
Yeah.
perhaps
Yeah.
next year.
I envision not only a wonderful screening that everyone's gonna like enjoy, but then a a costume contest. You know, a
Yeah.
cosplay costume contest would be just remarkable.
Imagine
And
like the runway theme is superheroes, but drag.
yeah, yes. Absolutely. To that note, it's the visibility is broadening and changing, and it's like there's so many, the mainstream superhero companies, Marvel and DC have embraced LGBTQ characters within their pantheon of characters,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's so great that
Slowly.
there is, we have Maxi LaWow that's just, just part of now that whole realm and genre. Will there be a sequel?
I hope so, honestly. I have some stories ready for a series. So
Mm,
ideally, I'd like to see Maxi made into a series. So
right.
in order to make that happen, we have to prove that Maxi has an audience in order to make that happen. But I don't know, even if we can't get a series done, I will be adapting one of those stories for a second film. So
Mm,
yes.
fantastic.
So.
And there's a soundtrack that's also associated, so it's there's that connectivity. The music is very important to this story. Tell me
Mhm.
a little bit about putting the music together for the film.
I worked with two incredibly good songwriters in Los Angeles, and to your point, music is so important to the LGBTQ plus community, and for dancing and telling our stories and just having fun, of course. And I wanted songs that spoke to certain moments in the film and certain themes. So, for example, the song called Shiro. By the way, all four original pop songs are vocal. The vocals of those songs is by Angie Fisher, who is a
Mhm.
Grammy-nominated vocalist, incredible, incredible vocalist, incredibly, oh my God, just amazing. And so with Shiro, for example, over the opening credits, it just talks about learning to embrace yourself. And when you love yourself, that's when you become a Shiro. Or Maxie's song, Bye Girl Bye, where she tells her haters, forget you, I will not apologize, you know, and she steps into her power.
Apollo.
Uh, I really love that
Hashtag
lyric.
Apollo.
Yeah. Uh, or Rain Down, which is Diabolical's lip sync number, solo lip sync number, where she just talks about embracing who she is as a little villainess,
Mm,
and it's just really fun song. It has
yeah,
kind of jazzy Ursula kind of vibe in some way.
yeah.
Yeah, so all of them are fantastic. We also have a live symphony orchestra from Budapest. And if you get the DVD, we have an 8-minute mini documentary about the music behind it, and it's really fantastic.
So the film is available to purchase on DVD, but it's also on digital platforms, correct?
Correct. So it's available on digital platforms in North America. So think anywhere you buy or rent movies. So Apple, iTunes, or whatever it's called now, Amazon, Google Play, etc. And then we have DVDs available. And then we're trans in the process of translating the subtitles so that we can release it in other markets real soon.
Well, that's really exciting. And again, congratulations on just putting together something, Ralph Bakshi, who's an animation legend, filmmaker and animator. I just recently saw they re-released Lord of the Rings
Mm,
in a remastered version,
yeah.
and it included a current documentary. And he just really had so much faith, even though he had this background of animation and was very competitive and felt that there was something missing in the market. He couldn't be deterred. He said he had faith in himself and said, if there's a vacuum, fill it. It's
Yes.
we you have to, whatever it is that you want to create, just have faith in yourself and do it. And this is one
Yes.
of those examples of a creative push and drive and just pulling a community together,
Yeah.
with you at the head as the creator, producer, and director of this film. Maxxie LaWow drag Super-Shero and just bringing it out there. And who knew that what we were missing? It's like here she here she is for consumption, and it's sort of like what about, and timing couldn't be more perfect with
Mm.
right now there's like a resurgence of superhero films that are really making their mark. So this must be so fulfilling for you, so gratifying, and just, ready to take on the world.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And to your point, like with Maxi, for example, a mainstream studio would never have produced this film.
Mm.
And so, believing the story, I had to work my little tuchus off to make it happen and bring together this creative team. But it speaks to anyone who wants to tell a story, and especially if it's a story for an underrepresented group in any way, do not give up your dream. Learn, study, ask around. And that's how I got everyone involved in Maxi was by asking around. Literally, I called up Darcy Drollinger, the drag queen owner of Oasis, and said, Darcy, girl, do you know anybody who can take my crazy story idea treatment and turn it into a filmable script? And she's like, yeah, talk to Michael. I'm like, oh, you mean Patty from HR? Yeah, talk to her. Okay. I mean,
it's
this is
it's
how
just
things
yeah,
happen. And
yeah.
don't give up your dream. Anything is possible. And especially nowadays where these creative tools are so much more affordable. And there are creative people who want to work and don't pay them, you know, absolutely pay them, I should say, absolutely pay them, for collaboration. But yeah, things can happen. It's really amazing.
Yeah, and also, to whom this film speaks to the those who within our community who really are kind of distressed at situations right now. Here's a beam of light. Here's a beam of hope. This is a way. This is this is the antidote to all that fear you may be feeling and all that distress.
Yeah.
It's right here in this film.
I was really inspired by the world of Schitt's Creek, believe it or
Mm,
not. And I mean, Maxie has a lot of influence. You'll see the Sailor Moon influence and
Hmm.
the Rocky Horror influence, and
Sure.
even Scooby-Doo, believe it or not.
Yes, I was
Yeah,
gonna
totally.
say.
Yeah. But Schitt's Creek influence came in the form of the town where Simon and Jay and Diabolical and everybody live, where being LGBTQ, no one cares. You know, everyone loves you and respects their neighbor just the same. And that's like in Schitt's Creek. And it was, you know, it was kind of a light bulb moment for me when seeing David Levy talking about that with Schitt's Creek. You know that they never had to come out. It was never a big deal for any of the characters. Uh, what came, yeah, it was really huge actually, and I wanted to bring that feeling into this world. And this is important because despite all the crazy things going on right now politically, we will get through this. We'll get to the other
Yes,
side, and
yes,
things are going to be better. And we're going to continue the march to civil rights, LGBTQ plus equality and civil rights for other folks who are being attacked right now with this current horrible regime.
right.
You know, we are going to get through this
Absolutely.
together.
And fortunately we have Maxie LaWow to lead the charge. We finally have a drag super-shero that we can all look up to. Anthony
Yes.
Hand, thank you so much for, bringing this to light and bringing the story of Maxie LaWow to the screen and continued success. And I can't imagine how exciting people are gonna be to tune in and see this. I mean, it's just a wonderful film and also has so much heart, and that is so powerful.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you. You've been listening to Out Loud and Live with JC Alvarez. My thanks to Anthony Han for sharing his story and bringing Maxie LaWow drag Super-Shero into the spotlight. The animated feature is available on digital formats and DVD. Visit Maxxie.com for more information. If you like what you've heard, tune in and also check out thefanzite.com for all your entertainment and pop culture news. Thanks for joining me, and always stay tuned.